place between Ryze Gaming and Denial Esports. But before we head into the Rift, first I'd like to welcome Counterlogic Gaming's Dexter to the show. How are you doing, Dexter? How's lovely America treating you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. America's treating me pretty well.
It's nice to be here, I have to say, as a European living in Germany, you know, it's nice to come to America. It's most of the food though.
Yeah, have you enjoyed the adjustment? The only reason I ask, we haven't spoken to you since last year, so
yeah.
How are you doing? How have you adjusted to North America? Considering you're talking to your EU buddies now?
I've adjusted pretty well actually, living here with the team and everything. I mean, to the food, it's like mostly Asian food because we live with 2 Asians in our house.
Do you cook? Because I see you tweeting about
yeah,
cooking.
I cook.
So have you taught them how to make schnitzels?
No, I didn't taught them, but I gave them like a small sample of it. And I was like, you have to taste this, and yeah.
Kept the secret for himself.
Kept the secret for myself, yeah.
So what about CLG? I mean, obviously you guys stepping things up, and you in particular, I mean, coming into the team, things have really changed for CLG. What's the future looking like for you guys?
Right now we just practice a lot for, like we don't practice a lot this week, but next week we will practice a lot and prepare for the upcoming playoffs. And I think we all have a pretty good feeling going into playoffs because we know that we can beat every team. And our first opponent is Coast, so we just prepare for them and then see how TSM goes and then maybe C9 probably. But yeah, that's what we have to do.
I wish you the best of luck. It does look like a pretty tough bracket if you want to go all the way through, so we'll see how it works out. Let's actually look backwards now because it's not all that long ago you yourself were sitting in the challenger positions as you were looking to qualify for the LCS. What's your take on the Challenger games? I don't know if you've watched many of the EU and the NA. What do you think of the scene and the level and the teams thus far?
In Europe, at least, I think there's NIP above the rest, and then you have like maybe Cloud9, and then after that 2 teams, they're like all pretty equally skill level. So I think the match between Ryze Gaming and Denial Gaming, it can go either way right now. So. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure because it's the most important game. I think it's even more important than the final because it's like the last spot for LCS. And having the mindset of, yeah, okay, you're one step closer to your dream of actually entering LCS and being out is like pretty hard actually. And if you lose that game, yeah.
So let's talk about game 1 here in this best of 5. I want to talk first of all about the bans in that one. We've seen Mundo once again taken away from the top lane. We're obviously playing on 4.5. What are your opinions on Mundo right now?
I think Mundo, even with the heal changes, where you can now cleanse the debuff from Ignite, I think it's still unchanged because his early game is way too bad. I think he's having a really hard time in the top lane actually in the early game because he can get doven over and over again by like really dive heavy junglers and high damage top laners. So I think Ryze is pretty much the new Mundo because he takes a lot of time to ramp up and then he even acts as a hyper carry and he has a lot more damage than Mundo. He's ranged and yeah, he's tanky too. So I think Ryze is pretty much the new Mundo because you can also like now everyone plays it with TP, but back then everyone used to run Ryze with TP anyway. So I don't think Mundo is at top lane. It can work sometimes. He's really good in like poke comps because of his cleaver and his percentage damage. But overall, I think there are way better picks right now in the top lane.
I want to ask again about picks. Talking about yesterday's games and today,
yeah.
We've seen Lee Sin and Kha'Zix banned.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we've seen Master Yi in all 3 of our games rushing Feral Flare. It is the new hotness. I feel it's a little overhyped. I think community everybody's panicking. What's your take on Master Yi and Feral Flare?
Well, first of all, I think Feral Flare is in a decent spot. It's nowhere near being overpowered or undervalued or anything. People, like you have to say that the challenger teams only had like 2 or 3 days of practice, so they can't really figure out if it's really good or not. And from my personal experience in competitive play, I think Feral Flare won't really see that much play because simply you can't afford to have a scaling jungler. You need an early game jungler, and you much prefer the late game power onto heroes like Ryze that scale up. You don't need it on junglers, and if you just want a split pusher, you can always, like you have Vayne for AD carries for split push, or you have Kayle or Zed in mid lane for split push, or you have Shyvana or Renekton for split push. So I don't see a reason why you would ever pick Yi in a jungle over those champions, because Yi all he does is split push, right? And in team fights, he's not good. There are way more better champions, and even if the jungler has 150 CS lead or something, it doesn't really matter because he doesn't really do that much in teamfights. And Exhaust got buffed too, so Exhaust is pretty good against Master Yi. And yeah, I mean, Yi lost all 3 games as far as I remember, so he did pretty well in early game, so can't deny that. But if I had any other junglers, I think even Nocturne is pretty good right now, I think. So Nocturne, his vision denial, and he's really good in pick compositions, and he can split push a bit, like he's pretty decent at it, but also his teamfight presence is way better than Master Yi, so yeah, we just have to see how it
Not
works
convinced.
out.
Not convinced.
I'm not really convinced of the Master Yi pick, but maybe someone teaches me. So
In before Dexter picks Master Yi first game.
Insta-lock.
So players are actually almost ready for this
Yeah.
one. So quick prediction for game number 2 after what you've seen in game 1.
I think the first game didn't really matter at all. Both teams used the first game to scout out what the enemy team wants. That's how I see it in the best of 5. You use the first game to see what the enemy wants and where the priorities are, and then you come into game 2 with a clear mind. So I think it really depends on picks and bans. I think in challenger teams it's more important to have the better early game, and yeah, so whoever picks the better early game might win the game. But yeah, it's all a matter of how you play it out. So I can't really predict anything. But since Kickers is my old teammate from back in the challenger scene,
What was your team name?
Dexter's actually evil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before that?
No, I had no team before that.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
but yeah.
Leakpedia's lines.
Wikipedia? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about
Talk
that.
about that one later, though. You can find that on Leakpedia
No,
if
but,
need be.
I go with Kickers team. I think he got
Yeah.
it. So.
Well, Dexter, thanks for joining us. We're going to have Dexter here with us for the rest of the day here as well. And we are, of course, moving in towards game number 2 here in just